The pride flag snapped in the wind, a bold slash of color against the pastel monotony of Willow Creek Lane. Ethan Cole, paint still flecking his knuckles from renovating the old craftsman house, felt its weight like a dare. He hadn't expected moving to this sleepy Ohio suburb with his partner, Marcus, to feel like stepping into a battlefield. But Karen Whitaker, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, had made it one. From the moment Ethan and Marcus moved in, her eyes followed them, sharp as a hawk's, from her pristine porch across the street. Her clipped emails about curb appeal standards arrived daily, each one a thinly veiled jab at their rainbow flag, their mismatched lawn chairs, their very existence. Ethan tried to laugh it off. Karen was just a nosy neighbor with too much time. Marcus, ever the optimist, believed she'd come around. But today, as Ethan stood on their porch, watching Karen's silhouette in her window, phone pressed to her ear, he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn breeze. Their first week in Willow Creek had been a blur of hope. Ethan, a muralist with dreams of opening an art studio, saw the fixer-upper house as a canvas for their future. Marcus, a social worker with a smile that could disarm anyone, saw it as a chance to build a home after years of city apartments and fleeting leases. They'd painted the walls sage green, hung fairy lights in the backyard, and planted wildflowers that defied the HOA's approved flora list. The pride flag was Marcus's idea, a symbol, he said, that they weren't hiding. Not here, not ever. But Karen Whitaker saw it as a provocation. At the first HOA meeting, she'd stood up, her voice syrupy but laced with venom, and declared their flag a visual disturbance. The room had gone silent, neighbors shifting uncomfortably in their folding chairs. Ethan's face burned, but Marcus squeezed his hand under the table, grounding him. "We're not taking it down," Marcus said calmly, his deep voice steady. Karen's smile tightened, and Ethan knew then, this wasn't about a flag. It was about them. The harassment started small. Karen's friendly reminders about lawn maintenance turned into daily inspections. She'd linger by their mailbox, scribbling notes about unapproved paint colors on their shed or the excessive number of guests at their housewarming party. Ethan found her peering into their backyard one evening, claiming she was checking for code violations. Marcus, always the peacemaker, invited her in for coffee, hoping to charm her. She declined with a sniff, muttering about community standards. By month 2, it escalated. Karen rallied neighbors to her cause, spinning tales of Ethan and Marcus lowering property values. Anonymous flyers appeared in mailboxes, warning of undesirable elements. Ethan's murals, vibrant depictions of local history he'd painted on community walls, were defaced with slurs. Marcus's car tires were slashed one night, the word freak scrawled on the windshield in soap. Each incident felt like a punch, but Marcus kept Ethan steady. "We've faced worse," he'd say, his brown eyes fierce with love. "We'll outlast her." Ethan wasn't so sure. He'd grown up in a small town like this, where whispers cut deeper than knives. He'd left to escape the stares, the sermons, the suffocating weight of being other. Marcus, raised in a progressive Chicago neighborhood, didn't fully grasp how small towns could fester. But Ethan felt it. The way neighbors avoided eye contact, the way Karen's allies smirked at HOA meetings. He started painting late at night, his brushstrokes angry, his murals growing darker. One evening, as Ethan scrubbed paint off their mailbox, another of Karen's anonymous complaints, he snapped. "Why don't we just leave?" he demanded, tossing the sponge into a bucket. Marcus, watering their wildflowers, froze. "Because this is our home," he said, his voice soft but unyielding. "She doesn't get to win." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, Marcus's steady breathing beside him, and wondered if love was enough to withstand a war they hadn't chosen. Across the street, Karen's porch light glowed like a sentinel, watching, waiting. The next morning, everything changed. Ethan found a letter taped to their door, and signed, but unmistakably Karen's handwriting. "You don't belong here," it read. "Leave before things get worse." His hands shook as he showed it to Marcus, who read it in silence, his jaw tight. "We're not running," Marcus said finally, crumpling the paper. But Ethan saw the flicker of fear in his eyes, and it broke something inside him. They decided to fight back, not with anger, but with proof they belonged. Ethan poured his heart into a new mural, a massive piece on their garage depicting two hands entwined, one light, one dark, surrounded by wildflowers and stars. Marcus organized a block party, inviting every neighbor, even Karen. "Kill them with kindness," he said with a grin, though his eyes were tired. The block party was a risk. Ethan spent the day grilling. His stomach knotted as neighbors trickled in. Some brought casseroles, others awkward smiles. Karen arrived late, her cardigan buttoned to her chin, her gaze sweeping the yard like a health inspector. "Nice effort," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "But this doesn't change the rules." Ethan's grip tightened on his spatula, but Marcus stepped in, offering her a plate. "We're all neighbors here, Karen," he said, his voice warm but firm. She didn't take the plate. Instead, she turned to the crowd, her voice carrying. "Some of us care about this community's values. Others don't." The air stilled. Ethan felt every eye on them, the weight of judgment pressing down. Then, a voice broke the silence, a teenager, Mia, from down the street. "I think their flag is awesome," she said, her braces glinting as she smiled. "It makes me feel safe." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Another neighbor, an older man named Tom, nodded. "They fixed up that eyesore of a house. Looks better than mine." Karen's face reddened, but she didn't back down. "This is about standards," she snapped. "Not personal feelings." But the tide was shifting. Ethan saw it in the way neighbors lingered, laughed, ate Marcus's famous peach cobbler. For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. That night, as they cleaned up, Marcus pulled Ethan close. "We're not alone," he whispered. Ethan nodded, but his eyes drifted to Karen's house, where her porch light still burned. He knew this wasn't over. The block party had cracked Karen's armor, but it didn't stop her. If anything, it sharpened her resolve. Ethan woke the next morning to find their wildflower garden trampled, petals scattered like confetti after a storm. Marcus knelt in the dirt, salvaging what he could, his silence louder than any curse. Ethan's chest tightened. He knew who was responsible, even without proof. Karen's campaign grew bolder. She filed official HOA complaints, citing unapproved landscaping and excessive noise from their party. The notices arrived in crisp envelopes, each one a jab at their piece. Ethan wanted to confront her, to demand why she hated them so much, but Marcus held him back. "She wants a reaction," he said, his voice steady but strained. "Let's be smarter." So they were. Ethan channeled his anger into his art, painting a new mural on the community center, a vibrant tapestry of faces, including two men holding hands, woven into the town's history. Marcus started a neighborhood watch group, framing it as community safety, but subtly ensuring eyes were on Karen's late-night inspections. They invited Mia, the teenager who'd spoken up, to help with the mural. Her enthusiasm, bright, unapologetic, reminded Ethan why they stayed. But Karen was relentless. She lobbied the HOA board to fine Ethan and Marcus for their flag, claiming it violated neutral decor rules. At the next meeting, she stood, her voice quivering with righteous indignation. "This isn't about hate," she lied, her eyes flicking to Ethan. "It's about fairness. Why should one house get special treatment?" Ethan's pulse raced, but Marcus spoke first, calm as ever. "Our flag represents us, just like your cross necklace represents you, Karen. Should we ban that too?" The room stirred, a few neighbors nodding. Karen's lips pursed, but she sat down, defeated for now. The victory was short-lived. Days later, Ethan found their mailbox spray-painted with a slur. He scrubbed it clean before Marcus saw, his hands shaking with rage. He didn't tell Marcus. He couldn't bear to see the hurt in his eyes again. Instead, he painted over the mailbox with a miniature version of their mural, a quiet act of defiance. Mia noticed. She started coming by daily, bringing friends to admire Ethan's art. "You're like, famous now," she teased, snapping photos for her blog. Her support drew others. Tom, the older neighbor, brought them homemade jam. A quiet couple from down the street offered to water their plants. Willow Creek was splitting, not between Ethan and Marcus and everyone else, but between those who saw love and those who saw a threat. Karen saw the shift and doubled down. She organized a petition to restore community values, passing it door to door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ethan overheard her at Tom's house, her voice low and urgent. "They're changing the neighborhood," she said. "You want your grandkids growing up around that." Tom shut the door in her face, but Ethan's stomach churned. Karen wasn't just a bully, she was dangerous. One night, Marcus came home late, his blazer rumpled, his eyes distant. "She called my office," he said, voice hollow. "Told them I'm a disruptive influence." They laughed it off, but he trailed off, and Ethan pulled him into a hug, feeling the weight of Marcus's optimism cracking. "We can't let her break us," Ethan whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was convincing. They decided to escalate their kindness. Marcus baked cookies for every neighbor, leaving them with handwritten notes about unity. Ethan offered free art classes at the community center, teaching kids like Mia to paint their own stories. The classes filled up fast, and Ethan felt a flicker of pride watching kids splash color across canvases, unafraid. But Karen struck again. A week later, the community center mural was vandalized, paint cans dumped across the faces Ethan had poured his heart into. The police called it a prank, but Ethan knew better. He spent hours cleaning it, Mia and her friends helping in silence. "Why does she hate you so much?" Mia asked, her voice small. Ethan didn't have an answer. That night, Marcus found Ethan staring at the ruined mural, tears in his eyes. "We're not giving up," Marcus said, his hand firm on Ethan's shoulder. "But we need a plan." They stayed up late, strategizing. They'd gather evidence, photos of Karen's inspections, recordings of her rants at meetings. They'd take it to the HOA board, maybe even the local paper. "She's not the only one who can fight," Marcus said, a spark of his old fire returning. The next day, Ethan installed a small security camera by their porch, hidden in a birdhouse. It felt like a betrayal of the home they'd built, but Karen had left them no choice. As he tested the feed, he saw her across the street, watching. Her eyes met the camera, and for a moment, Ethan swore she smiled. The camera caught Karen at 2 a.m., creeping along their fence with a flashlight, her face ghostly in the grainy footage. Ethan played it back, his heart pounding. "Got her," he whispered, showing Marcus. The video wasn't much, just Karen snooping, but it was proof she wasn't just a nuisance. She was stalking them. Marcus's face hardened. "We take this to the board," he said. "And the police." Ethan nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Willow Creek's HOA board was Karen's domain. Half the members were her allies, nodding along to her community values speeches. The police had dismissed the vandalism as kids' pranks. Would they care about a middle-aged woman with a flashlight? They presented the footage at the next HOA meeting. Ethan's hands shook as he connected his laptop to the projector, the room's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Karen sat in the front row, her cardigan pristine, her expression serene. When the video played, showing her skulking by their property, a murmur rippled through the room. "This is harassment," Marcus said, his voice steady but sharp. "We're asking for a formal investigation." Karen didn't flinch. "That's my right as HOA president," she said, her tone smooth. "I was ensuring compliance." Their flagpole's an inch too tall. A few board members nodded, and Ethan's stomach sank. But Mia's mother, Sarah, stood up. "This isn't about flagpoles," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "You're targeting them." The room split, half nodding with Sarah, half with Karen. The board promised to review the matter, but Ethan knew what that meant. Nothing. Outside, Mia ran up, her eyes wide. "I saw her too," she whispered. "Last week, by your garage. She had paint cans." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. Mia shrugged, her cheeks red. "I thought you'd think I was making it up." Marcus knelt beside her. "We believe you," he said. "Will you tell the police?" She nodded, and Ethan felt a surge of hope. Mia's testimony could change everything. They filed a report the next day, Mia's statement included. The officer, a gruff man named Daniels, watched the footage and sighed. "It's not enough for a restraining order," he said. "But we'll talk to her." Ethan wanted to scream, but Marcus thanked the officer, ever diplomatic. As they left the station, Ethan muttered, "This town's protecting her." Marcus squeezed his hand. "Not everyone. We've got Mia. Sarah." Tom. Karen's retaliation was swift. The next morning, their pride flag was gone, the pole snapped in half. Ethan stared at the jagged metal, his vision blurring with rage. Marcus didn't speak, just started cleaning up, his movements mechanical. Ethan wanted to storm across the street, but Marcus stopped him. "She's baiting us," he said. "We stay calm. We document everything." So they did. Ethan checked the camera daily, catching Karen's car circling their block at odd hours. Marcus kept a log of her complaints, each one more absurd. Unapproved mailbox color, excessive porch lights. They shared the evidence with Sarah, who'd started rallying neighbors quietly. "She's losing her grip," Sarah said one evening, sipping coffee in their kitchen. "People are tired of her vendettas." But Karen wasn't done. At the next HOA meeting, she unveiled a new rule. All exterior decorations required board approval retroactively. It was a direct hit at their murals, their wildflowers, their identity. The vote was close. Karen's allies pushed it through by one. Ethan felt the room spin as the gavel fell. "This is our home," he said, his voice breaking. "You're erasing us." Karen's smile was triumphant, but Sarah stood again. "This is personal," she said, "and we're not all okay with it." The meeting ended in chaos, neighbors arguing, Karen shouting about order. Ethan and Marcus left, their hands clasped tightly. Outside, Mia and her friends waited, holding signs, "Love wins," and "Stop the hate." Ethan's throat tightened. "You didn't have to do this," he said. Mia grinned. "Yeah, we did." That night, Ethan painted again, his brushstrokes fierce, creating a new mural on their fence. A phoenix rising from flames, its wings rainbow-hued. Marcus watched, his eyes soft. "You're incredible," he said. Ethan laughed, paint on his cheek. "You're not so bad yourself." But the next morning, the phoenix was defaced, black paint dripping like blood. Ethan's knees buckled, but Marcus caught him. "We're not broken," Marcus whispered. "Not yet." They reported it, adding it to their growing file. Officer Daniels promised to look into it, but Ethan saw the doubt in his eyes. Sarah had an idea. "Let's go public," she said. "The local paper's looking for stories. Karen's not untouchable." Ethan hesitated. Exposure could backfire, but Marcus nodded. "We've got nothing to lose." They met with a reporter, Layla, who listened intently, her pen flying. "This is bigger than your flag," she said. "It's about this town's soul." As they waited for the article, Karen's attacks grew desperate. Eggs splattered their windows. Their mailbox was uprooted. Each act felt like a scream, but Ethan and Marcus held firm, their love a shield. The article dropped a week later, front page. HOA president accused of harassment. Willow Creek buzzed, and Karen's porch light stayed off for the first time in months. The article hit Willow Creek like a lightning bolt. Neighbors whispered at mailboxes, their eyes darting to Karen's silent house. Ethan and Marcus felt the shift, hesitant smiles from people who'd once avoided them. A casserole left on their porch with an unsigned note. "You're welcome here." But Karen wasn't finished. Her silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Ethan checked the camera obsessively, expecting her next move. It came at dawn, 3 days after the article, their front door spray painted with "Leave Now." Marcus stared at it, his face unreadable, then grabbed a bucket and started scrubbing. "She's scared," he said, his voice low. "This is her lashing out." Ethan wasn't so sure. The paint felt like a wound, raw and personal. Layla, the reporter, called that afternoon. "Karen's claiming defamation," she said. "She's threatening to sue the paper, and you." Ethan's stomach dropped. They couldn't afford a lawsuit. Marcus, calm as ever, said, "Let her try. We've got evidence." But Ethan saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of fighting a war they hadn't started. Sarah rallied the neighbors, organizing a meeting at her house. Over coffee and Mia's homemade brownies, they strategized. Tom suggested a counterpetition to remove Karen as HOA president. Mia's friends offered to spread it online, their social media accounts buzzing with hashtags, "Love wins Willow Creek." Ethan felt a flicker of hope, but Karen's absence worried him. She wasn't at the meeting, her porch light still off. The petition gained traction fast. Neighbors who'd stayed silent signed, their names a quiet rebellion. Ethan painted a new mural on their shed, 2 figures embracing under a starry sky. their faces indistinct but their love clear. Mia photographed it, posting it with a caption, "This is what Willow Creek should be." The post went viral locally, shared by strangers Ethan had never met. Karen resurfaced at the next HOA meeting, her face pale but composed. She held a stack of papers, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "I've been slandered," she said. "These men have disrupted our community, and now they're playing victims." She presented her own petition, signed by her loyalists, demanding Ethan and Marcus remove their divisive decorations or face fines. The room erupted, neighbors shouting over each other. Sarah stood, her voice cutting through. "You're the one dividing us, Karen. Step down." The vote to remove Karen was scheduled for the following week. Ethan and Marcus spent the days canvassing, knocking on doors, sharing their story. Most neighbors listened, some with tears in their eyes. A few slammed doors, echoing Karen's rhetoric. Ethan's hope wavered, but Marcus kept him grounded. "We're not just fighting for us," he said one night, their hands entwined. "We're fighting for anyone who feels like they don't belong." The night before the vote, Karen struck again. Ethan woke to sirens, their front yard ablaze with a burning pride flag. Firefighters doused it quickly, but the damage was done, their lawn scorched, their flag reduced to ash. Marcus stood in the chaos, his face lit by flashing lights, and whispered, "She's desperate." Ethan nodded, but fear clawed at him. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was hate. The police took their statement, the camera footage showing a hooded figure, Karen's build, her gait. Officer Daniels promised an investigation, but Ethan saw the exhaustion in his eyes. "We'll do what we can," he said, and Ethan wanted to believe him. Sarah arrived, her face grim. "This ends tomorrow," she said. "The vote's our chance." The HOA meeting was packed, the community center overflowing. Karen stood at the podium, her voice shaking with righteous fury. "I've protected this neighborhood for years," she said. "These outsiders don't respect our values." Ethan's chest tightened, but Marcus squeezed his hand, his warmth a lifeline. Sarah presented the counter-petition, her voice clear. "This isn't about values. It's about hate." Karen's targeted Ethan and Marcus for who they are. The vote was close, too close. Ethan held his breath as the board counted ballots, Karen's eyes boring into him. When the results came, a cheer erupted. Karen was out, replaced by Sarah. Karen's face crumpled, but she stormed out without a word. Ethan felt relief, but not victory. Not yet. That night, Marcus hung a new pride flag, its colors vivid against the charred lawn. "We're still here," he said, his voice fierce. Ethan kissed him, the weight of their fight easing for the first time in months. But as they turned to go inside, Ethan saw a shadow move across the street. Karen, watching from her porch, her phone glowing in the dark. Karen's fall from HOA president didn't end her crusade, it unleashed it. Free from the board's scrutiny, she operated in shadows, her attacks more vicious. Ethan and Marcus woke to slashed tires, their new pride flag shredded, and a brick through their kitchen window with a note, "You'll regret this." The police had the footage, Karen's hooded figure again, but without a clear face, they called it inconclusive. Ethan's hope frayed, each incident a reminder that Karen's hate was a wildfire, uncontained. Marcus stayed resolute, rebuilding their flagpole, repainting their mailbox. "She's losing," he said, his voice a mix of defiance and exhaustion. But Ethan saw the toll. Marcus's smiles were rarer, his sleep broken. Ethan painted through his own sleepless nights, his murals growing bolder, each stroke a scream against Karen's venom. Their latest, on the community center's back wall, showed a rainbow phoenix soaring over Willow Creek, a symbol of their survival. Sarah, now HOA president, pushed for change. She repealed Karen's restrictive rules, declaring pride flags and murals community assets. Neighbors clapped at the announcement, but Karen's allies grumbled, their loyalty unshaken. Sarah also installed cameras around the neighborhood, funded by HOA dues. "We're watching her," she told Ethan and Marcus. "She'll slip up." Mia and her friends became their fiercest allies. They started a blog, Willow Creek United, documenting Karen's harassment and celebrating Ethan's art. The blog gained traction beyond the town, drawing support from strangers online. A local LGBTQ plus group reached out, offering legal help. Ethan felt a swell of gratitude, but the brick through their window haunted him. "What's next?" he asked Marcus one night, his voice raw. Marcus didn't answer, just held him tighter. Karen's next move was personal. Marcus's workplace received an anonymous letter accusing him of unprofessional conduct and linking to a doctored photo of him at a Pride event, captioned with slurs. His boss dismissed it, but the damage was done. Marcus came home shaken, his optimism cracking. "She's trying to ruin me," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Ethan's rage boiled over. "We need to end this," he said, grabbing his phone to call Layla. Layla's second article was explosive. HOA Exile Wages Hate Campaign. It included Mia's photos, neighbor testimonies, and the police reports. Willow Creek's social media lit up, hashtags trending, "Stop Karen Now." Karen's allies grew quieter, some signing Sarah's petition to ban her from HOA events. But Karen didn't retreat. Instead, she posted online, calling herself a victim of woke bullying. Her followers rallied, flooding Ethan and Marcus's social media with hate. The harassment spilled offline. Ethan found their wildflowers poisoned, their roots black and brittle. Marcus's car was keyed, the scratches spelling out "sinner." Each act felt like a tightening noose, but they refused to break. Marcus organized a community vigil for unity, inviting everyone but Karen. Dozens showed up, holding candles, Mia's signs glowing in the dark. Ethan spoke, his voice trembling but clear. "We just want to live," he said. "To love? Is that too much?" The crowd applauded, and for a moment, Ethan felt invincible. But Karen was watching. The next day, their security camera caught her pouring something on their lawn, gasoline, the police later confirmed. They arrested her, but she was released on bail within hours, her lawyer claiming insufficient evidence. Ethan's hope shattered. "She's untouchable," he told Marcus, his voice hollow. Marcus shook his head. "No one's untouchable. We just need her to crack." They got their chance at the town's annual fair. Ethan and Marcus set up a booth for Ethan's art classes, their murals drawing crowds. Mia and her friends handed out rainbow pins, their energy infectious. Karen appeared, her face a mask of calm, but her eyes burned. She approached their booth, her voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. "You're ruining this town," she said. Ethan froze, but Marcus stepped forward. "No, Karen. You are." The crowd went silent. Karen's composure slipped, her voice rising. "You don't belong here. You never will." Ethan's heart pounded, but he saw Mia filming, her phone steady. Karen lunged, knocking over a canvas, her rant escalating into slurs. Neighbors gasped, some pulling her back. The police arrived, and this time, they had witnesses, dozens of them. Karen was detained, her outburst public and undeniable. Ethan and Marcus stood together, their hands clasped, as she was led away. The crowd cheered, not for Karen's fall, but for their survival. Ethan looked at Marcus, his eyes wet. "We did it," he whispered. Marcus smiled, his first real smile in weeks. "Not yet, but we're close." Karen's arrest was the talk of Willow Creek, her mugshot plastered across local news sites. Ethan and Marcus watched the coverage on their couch, the weight of months lifting but not gone. The fair incident, Mia's video, the witnesses, had finally pinned Karen, but her bail release kept them on edge. "She'll fight this," Marcus said, his voice quiet. Ethan nodded, his eyes on their new pride flag, its colors defiant against the dawn. The town was changing. Sarah's leadership transformed the HOA, with new rules protecting diversity and banning harassment. Neighbors who'd stayed silent now stopped by, offering apologies, baked goods, even help repainting their shed. Mia's blog became a local sensation, her posts about Ethan's murals drawing visitors from nearby towns. Ethan's art classes overflowed, kids and adults alike painting stories of hope. But Karen's shadow lingered, her house dark, her car gone, yet her presence felt in every creak of the floorboards. Layla's articles kept the pressure on, detailing Karen's history of bullying beyond Ethan and Marcus. Former neighbors came forward, sharing stories of her targeting single mothers, immigrants, anyone who didn't fit her mold. The local LGBTQ+ group organized a fundraiser for Ethan and Marcus's legal fees, the community rallying behind them. Ethan painted a new mural at the community center, a mosaic of hands, all colors, all ages, linked in a circle. "This is us," he told Marcus, his voice thick. Marcus kissed his forehead. "This is home." But Karen wasn't done. Her lawyer filed a countersuit, claiming Ethan and Marcus had provoked her with their disruptive lifestyle. The claim was flimsy, but it dragged them to court. The hearing was packed, Willow Creek's divide on display. Karen's allies in one corner, Sarah, Mia, and dozens of supporters in another. Ethan testified, his voice steady as he recounted the harassment, the slurs, the vandalism, the fear. Marcus followed, his calm demeanor cracking as he described finding the burned flag. "We just wanted to live," he said, echoing Ethan's words from the vigil. Mia's video was the turning point. Played in court, it showed Karen's rage, her words venomous, her actions undeniable. The judge's face hardened, and Karen's lawyer faltered. The countersuit was dismissed, and Karen faced charges for harassment, vandalism, and attempted arson. She pleaded not guilty, her eyes cold as they met Ethan's across the courtroom. He didn't look away. The trial stretched weeks, each day a gauntlet. Karen's allies spread rumors online, calling Ethan and Marcus troublemakers. But the town's tide had turned. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, holding Mia's signs. "Love wins." Ethan and Marcus stood among them, their hands clasped, their love a quiet rebellion. When the guilty verdict came, harassment and vandalism, with arson pending further investigation, Ethan exhaled, tears streaming. Marcus pulled him close, whispering, "We're free." But freedom came with scars. Their lawn bore burn marks, their trust in neighbors fractured. Ethan painted through the pain, his murals now lining Willow Creek streets, each one a testament to survival. Marcus threw himself into community work, helping Sarah rebuild the HOA into something inclusive. They hosted dinners, inviting Mia, Sarah, Tom, and others who'd stood by them. Laughter filled their home again, but Ethan still checked the cameras, half expecting Karen's shadow. She was out on bail, her house for sale, her presence a ghost. Rumors swirled. She'd moved to a nearby town, still ranting about her neighborhood. Ethan worried she'd return, but Marcus was resolute. "She's lost her power," he said one night, their new flag glowing under porch lights. "We've taken it back." The community rallied stronger. The annual fair invited Ethan to paint a live mural, a celebration of Willow Creek's rebirth. Hundreds watched as he created a rainbow bridge spanning the canvas, Marcus's hand on his shoulder. Mia and her friends cheered, their pins sparkling in the sun. Sarah announced a new HOA fund for community art, named after Ethan. For the first time, Ethan felt like he belonged. As summer faded, Ethan and Marcus sat on their porch, the pride flag snapping above. "We did more than survive," Marcus said, his eyes warm. "We changed this place." Ethan smiled, his heart full but heavy. Karen's hate had tested them, but their love had won, not just for them, but for anyone who'd ever felt outcast. Across the street, Karen's house stood empty, its "for sale" sign a quiet surrender. Fall settled over Willow Creek, the air crisp, the trees ablaze with color. Ethan and Marcus's home stood proud, its wildflowers replanted, their pride flag brighter than ever. Karen's house sold to a young family, their laughter filling the street where her shadow once loomed. The town felt lighter, but Ethan carried the weight of their fight, his murals a map of their scars and triumphs. The guilty verdict hadn't fully stopped Karen. She'd moved to a neighboring town, her online rants quieter but still venomous, blaming Ethan and Marcus for ruining her life. The arson charge was dropped for lack of evidence, leaving Ethan bitter. But Marcus saw it differently. "She's lost everything," he said one evening, pouring coffee. "Her power, her allies, her home. That's karma." Ethan wasn't sure. He painted obsessively, his latest mural, a tree with rainbow leaves, gracing the town library. It drew crowds, tourists snapping photos, locals nodding with pride. Mia, now a regular at their house, called it legendary. Her blog had grown, earning her a scholarship to an art school, inspired by Ethan. "You showed me how to fight with color," she told him, her eyes bright. Ethan hugged her, his heart swelling. Sarah's HOA reforms took root. She launched a diversity council, with Marcus as a lead advisor, ensuring no one else would face Karen's wrath. Neighbors volunteered for community projects, painting benches, planting gardens, each act a rejection of the hate Karen had sown. Ethan taught art classes twice a week, his studio a haven for kids like Mia, who painted their fears and dreams. Marcus joined sometimes, sketching beside Ethan, their laughter a quiet victory. But healing wasn't linear. Ethan woke some nights, heart racing, half expecting a brick through the window. Marcus held him through those moments, his voice a steady anchor. "We're safe," he'd whisper, and Ethan clung to that promise. They rebuilt their trust in Willow Creek, neighbor by neighbor. Tom brought them apples from his orchard. The new family across the street invited them for dinner. Slowly, the town became theirs. The turning point came at the town's winter festival. Ethan and Marcus were asked to lead the opening ceremony, unveiling a mural Ethan had painted for the occasion, a tapestry of Willow Creek's history, with pride flags woven into its heart. The crowd cheered, their applause washing over Ethan like a tide. Marcus took his hand, their fingers lacing, and Ethan felt the weight of their journey lift. Afterward, Mia ran up, her scarf flapping. "Someone left this at your booth," she said, handing Ethan a letter. His stomach clenched, expecting Karen's handwriting, but it was unsigned, the words simple. "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Ethan stared at it, unsure who it was from. One of Karen's allies, maybe, or a silent neighbor. Marcus read it over his shoulder, his smile soft. "Doesn't matter who," he said. "It means we're heard." That night, they sat by their fireplace, the letter on the table. Ethan traced Marcus's hand, his ring catching the light. They'd talked about marriage before, but the fight with Karen had paused those dreams. Now, with her gone, Ethan felt ready. "Marry me," he said, his voice steady. Marcus's eyes widened, then softened. "Thought you'd never ask," he teased, pulling Ethan into a kiss. They planned a spring wedding in their backyard, inviting all of Willow Creek. Sarah officiated, Mia as their flower girl, scattering wildflower petals. The town showed up, Tom, Layla, the new family across the street, even neighbors who'd once turned away. Ethan's murals framed the scene, their colors a testament to love's endurance. As they exchanged vows, Ethan looked at Marcus, his heart full. "We made it," he whispered. Marcus grinned. "We did more than that." Karen's name faded from Willow Creek's conversations, her legacy a cautionary tale. Ethan and Marcus's home became a beacon, their flag flying high, their love unyielding. They'd fought not just for themselves, but for every outcast, every dreamer, every soul who dared to live authentically. As they danced under fairy lights, surrounded by their chosen family, Ethan knew karma hadn't just knocked. It had rebuilt their world.